Good morning, River Rocks Church. This is Gio. I get to be with you guys today. Today we're going to be going over Job chapter 6. Yesterday, Pastor Jeff covered Job chapter 5, where we saw one of Job's friends basically come at him with accusations on why he was in the position that he was in. And terrible thing to do, but that's what happened. And in Job chapter 6, Job responds. We're not going to read through the chapter, but I'm going to go through a few verses as we're working our way through, and then hopefully have some encouraging thoughts at the end. So in the first 7 verses, Job articulates some of the pain of his grief in a really amazing way. In a way so much so that you're almost wondering, like, I wish I could express myself that way. And with that much detail. So he says in verse 4, "For the arrows of the Almighty are within me. My spirit drinks in their poison. The terrors of God are arrayed against me." This is a man who's lost his children, lost friends. His health has been stricken. He is just surrounded by unrelenting grief. And he describes it as being heavier than the sand of the sea. Pain like he's been shot with poisonous arrows. And not only that, not only just the physical pain, but the terror, just the fear that he's surrounded with. He's in a really hard spot. In verse 8, he says, "Oh, that I might have my request, that God would grant me the thing that I long for, that it would please God to crush me." So this pain, this fear, this anguish that he's having, it's driving him to even request that God would allow him to die. But it's a prayer that God doesn't answer. And in verse 14, as he's responding to his friends, he says, "To him who is afflicted, kindness should be shown by his friend." In verse 15, he says, "My brothers have dealt deceitfully like a brook, like the streams of the brooks that pass away." So Job now likens his friends to a brook that dries up when it's hot. In the wintertime, there's ice and cold water rushing through it when the snow is melting. But then in the heat of the summer, when you're looking for refreshment, you go to that brook and it's dried up. There is no refreshment. He thought that his friends are coming now. Maybe there's going to be some comfort, some encouragement, some companionship, but instead they brought condemnation. And so that was a big pain for him. That to the most part wraps up his response. But the verse in this chapter that I think provides a little glimmer of hope and direction for us when we are going through trials and trying times. He says in verse 10, about the second half, "Though in anguish I would exult, he will not spare, for I have not concealed the words of the Holy One." I have not concealed the words of the Holy One. When in anguish, when in trial, our friends may be a source for encouragement, and prayerfully they will be. But our hope can't be in our friends. It can't be in that very close spiritual best friend even, our hope has to be in the Lord. And the best way for us to know the Lord is to know him through his word. And so I wanted to leave you guys with some of these comforting, encouraging words that we could hold on to in trying times, that we will not conceal the words of the Holy One. In Psalm 46 verses 1 through 3, this is one personally for me that gave me an incredible peace at one point in my life. He says, "God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear, though the earth gives way, though the mountains be moved into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble at its swelling. Our reason to trust God will always be greater than our reasons to fear, because God is sovereign. Regardless of whatever trial or pain or hardship is coming our way, God has allowed it. It doesn't make him bad. That just makes him in control. He's allowed it. He doesn't necessarily send these trials all the time. Sometimes it's our own doings that have caused it, but he allows it. He's aware. He's still sitting on the throne. Though the mountains be moved into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, God can be our strength in those moments, and he is completely in control. And that should give us great comfort because he's good and he's wiser than we are. In James 1, 2 through 4, "Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing." So God can use a painful trial to mature us. And it's a perspective shift that we got to make sure we have during these trials, no matter how hard they may be, because one, they drive us to Him, the ultimate source of comfort and peace. But two, the lessons that we learn in those trials can be so precious for our own faith and for the faith of others. God can use the lessons that we learn in those times to be a blessing, an encourager to someone in the future down the road that may need to hear those very words that we've learned. And finally, John 16:33, one of my favorite. Jesus is speaking to the disciples. These things I have spoken to you, that in me you may have peace. And here's the promise. In the world you will have tribulation. Not a promise that I want to quote. In the world you will have tribulation. This is the second half though. But be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. That is huge for us to remember. That regardless of whatever we face here, Jesus didn't forget to tell us. He was very straightforward. We're going to have troubles and trials here. But be of good cheer. Be happy. Rejoice. Your Jesus has conquered the world. He's overcome the world. We can look to eternity and know that we're going to see Him face to face. And so when we face trials on this earth, we may not find comfort in anywhere else other than Jesus, but that's the best place to have it. So pray you guys are encouraged. Pray that you hide His word in your heart so that when you come through trials, you can be comforted by what He has to say and have our faith there. All right, God bless you guys. Have a great day.